Hi folks, sorry for keeping y'all waiting. I just had to field some stuff really quick. Wah! Welcome on in. We're going to be off cam for today. But I need to go reply to something really quick, and then we'll get started. Alright, see y'all in a hot second. Alright, stuff is fielded. Alright. Hiya folks, let's hop into cam off. Am I the right VC? Yes, I am. Bonk. Hello, everybody. How are we all doing? Hope y'all are doing okay. I'm a bit of an eepy guy. Bit of a late start today. Had to make sure the baby boy was taken care of. I also think today's stream is going to be a shorter one. Just because I have a vocal lesson later this afternoon, and I want to have some time to go over some of my lesson stuff and get. I'm going to meet my teacher in person rather than our usual digital class. So I want to make sure I have all my prep done ahead of time. So this will be a shorter stream. Hi, Humna. Thank you so much for the lurk. Thank you for joining us. All right, folks. Let's say hi to everybody in the chat. Hello, Storybot. Thank you for keeping the community safe. Hello, Ozra. Lovely to see you. Hi, Gail. Hello, Puck. Lovely to see you. Who else is here? Hello. I already said hi to Gail, right? Yes, I already said hi to Gail. I already said hi to Puck. Da, 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 da. Hi, Jovi. Welcome on in. Lovely to see you. All right. Wow. All the folks are here. Thank you for saying good luck for class. We are doing Somewhere Only We Know as a song this time, which is exciting. It is exciting, but hold on, I'm a little suspicious at my volume here. Hold on, let me double check what's going on over here. I wouldn't be surprised if Wavelength has decided to annoy me. Oh no, it's looking normal. Okay. Weird. Yeah, we're doing Somewhere Only We Know. And it is an interesting... The reason we chose the song is because apparently this song is very popular in like vocal exams, like singing exams. And my teachers taught it a ton. So she was like, hey, I could give you lots of like super technical feedback on this, which is stuff that we need to work on anyway, so. Which is awesome. I'm gonna learn a lot. There are points of it that I find very challenging in getting the right quality and styling using my mouth. So we're gonna learn a lot about that. But today, folks, I do want to take a moment to also greet everybody in the YouTube chat. Hello, lovely to see you. Today we're going to be doing some game design, and we will see how far we get. We will see how far we get, genuinely. Oh, that reminds me, I need to... The YouTube chat will be easier for me to look at if I'm able to actually have the link, eh? Wonderful. So, with that, let's hop on over. All right. I see that we don't have my window set up for some reason. All right. Hold on. Let me... Incredible. All right. Ain't this wonderful? All right, folks. Let's get into it. So last time, what we did was we worked on... try to remember, did we actually even make a... Let me double check. Let me go back to... Did we actually even make a document for it? We might not have. Ooh, I think we might have just been focused on reading the engine. So let's maybe go and make a Google Doc about it. All right. So now we can hop into the screen share. All right. So Havoc engine game jam. Wonderful. And what we're also going to make sure to do is have the game jam page up as well as toolkit. So we can all see it. Everyone able to see it quite nicely? Wonderful. I'm also eating my French toast breakfast as we're doing this because I need to eat. So apologies. No way people already submitted stuff. We're only like what? 5 days in? Holy shit. Folks have already submitted stuff. That's wild. Ooh, so someone's made an eco-fantasy TTRPG about magical girl trash goblins. My god. Like, holy shit, this person has like a character art for all their stuff and an adventure. What? Wait a second. Wait a second. Oh, it's also part of the No Ice in Minnesota bundle, which y'all should support. It's an incredible bundle. Incredible bundle. They're raising money for the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. They're doing amazing work, and you can get a bunch of games for, I believe, $10. It's incredible. Yeah, $10. Oh my goodness. Anyway, with that being said, I'm feeling less bad now because if this was in the bundle, it means it was made before the game jam officially started, which makes me feel um a little better that I'm not like just too slow or something. I'm like, oh my god, how did what? People game design so fast. But no, this makes me feel a little better. This makes me feel a little bit better. All right. So, with that, let's think about our own game. If I remember correctly, some of the key ideas we had and the ideas that folks felt the most intrigued by was, so we had like a few concepts. We had like a basic Monster Hunter-esque setup. We had a concept about oh no, I lost my cozy spot in the den. No, Jovi. Listen, you are great. Thank you for being so consistent in viewing my content. Let's type this out so that we don't forget, actually. So our key concepts so far are basic Monster Hunter. We're trying, you know, we're gonna trying to hunt monsters within a key time frame, right? The other one is where you're playing monsters, taking down the hunters before they get you. The other concept we had was a sort of like spirits slash afterlife situation where we had I feel like we were looking at the idea of like purgatory. We were looking at it was like escape, kind of like escape the underworld slash purgatory. Sort of a deal, right? I think we were learning closer to purgatory. The idea of being in limbo, which is all very interesting. Now, we will have to go over key stuff about a Havoc engine game. And see what makes the most sense to design. I am quite inspired by the spirits and the afterlife. I think like all of these three are like really good. But I'm trying to think of like which is, because I'm gonna say this to folks who are thinking about game designing for a game jam. An important thing for all of you to keep in mind when you're game designing for a game jam is, and this is coming from experience, personal experience, it is important to try and do something easy. Like you're already dealing with a pretty short deadline. Like I have 25 days to finish this, right? And the Havoc engine, while straightforward, there's quite a bit of stuff in here, right? So like Why make your life harder? So what we're really going to do right now is we're going to assess all three. We're going to assess all three. And from there, hopefully we can get a better sense. Gotta fight the scope creep, but more importantly, Azra, not just scope creep. The thing we're going to be fighting specifically is the sense of overwhelm or the sense of feeling lost and untethered before you even start the project. Right? Because I feel like this is a trap that, and I say this, you know, noting that I felt this way before in some of my game jam submissions when I was first like conceptualizing, where like I would come up with a few concepts and I'm like, oh my god, none of these really fit. I don't know what inspiration is here. And it's to help kind of like keep folks a little focused. I think a great way for us to make that choice is to look at the concepts and kind of do the exercise. All right, so here's the exercise. I love that they have these exercises for the engine, actually. This is inspiring me for when I finish up the Wild Heart engine, that there needs to be some good questions in there. Or like exercises or something. Something that can get folks to basically like test out what they've learned. All right, so okay. So these are the main three we're going to be working with here. So let's start with the Monster Hunter one. What is the identity your characters share? Well, they're Monster Hunters. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I think one of the key concerns with the Havoc engine is to make sure that everyone's like aligned. So that is pretty straightforward. Outline 3 player characters because in the toolkit, specific named people with traits either stated or implied. I just realized I don't have any water. Be right back. All right, we're back. Thank you. I just need to drink water. I realized my throat was like absolutely shot. So yeah. So these people need to be specifically named people with traits, right? I think we can easily do that with Monster Hunters. We can just name people. Stick to like a typical like cornerstones of what those but like, you know, like in a typical party, you got your tank, you got your glass cannon, you know, you got your buff and debuff person, things like that. So I think that's gonna be pretty direct, and they could each have a specialization and combine interesting traits. Yeah, I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty direct. So we got Monster Hunt. Monster Hunter concept works really well there. Next, we got monsters. I think monsters is also similar, right? I think we can easily do monsters. Three types of monsters. I think we can easily do that. Instead of like naming people, we could easily name monsters. I think that works, and we can easily give them a specialization or a couple of interesting traits. The third one that we were looking at is the spirit slash afterlife. All right. So, what's the identity your characters share? They are all spirits. Outline 3-player characters in your game. I think we can easily do that. Thinking that each is specialization, a couple of interesting traits. This is going to be interesting. This might be the challenging bit. It would be very interesting, but not as straightforward. Not as straightforward. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about spirits, and we're talking about escaping the like purgatory. Because then we're gonna have to think about we're gonna have to think about a lot about the world building. Which, I mean, granted, we're gonna have to do that for all of them because as we discussed last time, Havoc Engine basically lives and dies by the strength of its world building and flavor. So that's something you have to be keen on. And we also have to keep in mind the Havoc Engine was initially designed for explosive action games. So really what I've discovered going through all the concepts is all concepts are actually pretty decent and standard and pretty strong actually. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to revisit our poll. Make a new poll and see how folks are feeling now. Now that it's been some time from before to now, to see which particular concept feels the most inspiring, the most interesting to all of you. So let's get this poll together. New poll. What concept to pursue? So we got Monster Hunter. We have monsters fight back. And then we have spirits and purgatory. All right. I will allow additional votes. This is going to be a 2-minute poll. This will give me time to eat my food. Vote. Vote for your favorite concepts, and feel free to ask questions in the chat. Also, I realize y'all can't really see this. Let me fix this. It's better. Monsters are taking early lead. We got a vote in for the Spirits game. Very interesting. All right. Wow. It seems that folks have voted for Monsters Fight Back. All right. That's the game we will do. But this concept is something I do want to come back to. I think there's something very interesting here. So we'll come back to that concept. Maybe the Havoc engine just isn't meant for that game. You know what I mean? We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. With that, let me just put my plate away and we can get to design. And oh my goodness, baby boy. Up. Up. Let's go. He's leaning his head right against my wheel. And I'm like, please don't do this. So bear with me, let me put this plate away. Hi, folks. I'm having a bit of a tummy ache. Just give me a couple more minutes. I'm going to hit BRB. I'll set up the iPad for y'all. Hang on. Oh no, what happened? Alright, let's do a restart while I get things back in order. Thank you for your patience, folks. Oh, tummy ache. The struggle for a tummy ache king. Oh my goodness, well done. I am okay. It is the unfortunate tummy hurt syndrome. Unfortunate tummy hurt syndrome. It happens. I do want us to get a little bit of more progress before I call the stream. But thank you all for staying on. Apologies for all the BRBs. This one is hard. Ticks is good. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Maybe he needs another person to type wish. Yeah. Ooh, well done. All right, folks. We're going to be wrapping up iPad time. Thank you for your patience during the BRB. Let's hop right back into game design. Wonderful. All right. Congratulations on reaching the second level. We will not be going to the second level. Bonk. All right. So, let's hop back to our game design stream. Hello, everybody. Also, I want to welcome Joseph Bell over on the YouTube chat. Welcome on in. We're doing some game design for a game jam. This is specifically the Havoc game jam by Rowan Rook and Deckard. We have nailed down our hold on, I realized that y'all can't see the chat on this source. Hold on. How could I have done this to all of you? Not have the chat on screen. There we go. Now you can see the chat on the screen. So we've already nailed down our concept. We're going to talk about monsters fighting back. Right? We're going to do monsters fighting back against the hunters. So now we get to work on the game itself. So here, the way I arrange my game design, sort of like space. Here is our concepts page. This is where we get to kind of like do whatever we want, like scratch pad stuff. And then we will have like a separate heading for different things. So let's do this exercise for the monsters then. So what's the identity all your characters share? They're monsters. I'll put it in a different color. Being hunted by the hunters. Wonderful. Now, let's think about 3 types of player characters in this game. This is going to be kind of challenging. All right. Because now we have to ask ourselves, what kind of monsters do we want to lean into, right? What is the flavor of monster? You'd never embarrass yourself, Jovi. Listen, those games get real hard. But yeah, so we have to think about what kind of monsters we want to lean into here. Do we want to like fantasy monsters, like fantasy creatures fighting back? I feel like, and this might be more work on my part, so y'all can side-eye me if you if you think I'm doing more work than is necessary here. But I am quite tempted to make my own type of monster. Like, maybe this is the opportunity for us to have our own monster class. Does that make sense? Like, similar to how we will have, like, you know, among the kaijus, we have the class of, like, Godzilla, Ghidorah, you know, oh, what's my baby girl's name? Oh, why can't I remember her name? Mothra, things like that. Because again, like this, the Havoc game engine is built on the flavors. So I think vibes-wise, I'm leaning towards a similar vibe of like the kaiju. So like, not specifically that they're all giant monsters, but you know, with the kaiju, they have a so I'm going to just make it clear, less that they are gigantic creatures. But I love the kind of strangeness to them, right? There's a level of like how odd they are, right? How odd they are. Because I think the heart of this, the conceit we are tapping into here is making humanizing the unfathomable, humanizing the monstrous, complexifying, you know, those that we fear, right? Because we're flipping this on its head, right? We're taking a game, right? That was this game, remember folks, this game, this engine was used to make Eat the Reich. So, in spirit of that, to make a game about those who would be hunted become the fighters, become the protagonists is quite significant and I think quite in line with the Havoc engine. So to me, it feels like, yeah, I could do fantasy creatures, unicorns, werewolves, griffins, whatever. But does that feel like it's heeding the call, right? Does that feel like it's heeding the call? I don't think so. Not quite. Because as we discussed the last time we looked at the Havoc engine, it lives and dies by the world and the flavor. And the way that I see it, I'm going to be doing that like a lot of work on that already. I might as well like tap into it a bit more. You know what I mean? So I think the vibe is are you thinking a particular kind of fantasy? Extended high fantasy or urban fantasy? It does sound like you want this director, so I go for it. Yeah, it does sound like I do. You're right. The more I talk about it, the more I'm convinced of my own argument. So I think this might be like a futuristic fantasy. Like so like maybe a little more because the more I think about these monsters, the more I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to like play around with some weird guys. You know what I mean? And I think it'll be fun for me. I love monsters. And I don't think I've done a game yet where I've like gotten to just be like, let's get weird about monsters. You know what I mean? A lot of my previous like adversaries or like monsters or antagonists, I've had like very, very like, you know, like there's been a more sort of strict vibe to them. I feel like with this, it's like, ooh, I can make them really weird. I can make them real weird. So, yes, let's type here. Lesson that they're giant creatures, but that they are strange and unfathomable. But not in a Lovecraftian way either. We're gonna make sure to stay a little away from the Lovecraftian of it all. So let's take a look at these kaijus. So yeah, this a lot of the kaiju that we are familiar with are based off of like folklore, right? Dragons, etc., right? Because you got Mothra, we got Gamera, we got King Ghidorah, right? Love Mothra. Love her. Love her. I love the idea of like I'm like trying to hammer down and like hone in on what makes these monsters what they are. Because you know what I'm thinking of in terms of vibes, actually? Who here has seen Princess Mononoke? Studio Ghibli's Princess Mononoke. The vibe I'm thinking of from Princess Mononoke is the spirit of the forest. Mo I can spell Mononoke. This guy. This is the vibe. This is the vibe. Y'all know what I mean? This is the vibe. This is the vibe. Just weird guys. Weird guys. Yeah, like just really really get into the weirdness of it all, right? I'll be honest, I do fear him in his deer form. Well, we can tap out of here. His deer form is quite scary. He's quite scary, I'm not gonna lie. He is quite scary, I will say. But yeah, I think listen, that face is something. I described a similar creature when I did for Purna's wedding when we were doing the games for the excuse me, the gaming night. I described a similar creature and everyone was like, huh? It was great. It's strange and unfathomable. I think we're also I feel like they need to like each represent something. So like, for example, there are the beasts of the cardinal directions, right? Like the yeah, the four symbols, right? The five heavenly beasts, right? But they all represent like a cardinal direction, right? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But I think like something along the same vibes. Like instead of it being just like disparate monsters without a sort of cohesiveness, they're all like strange and unfathomable, weird little guys, and they all represent something, like each of them, and they're like 4 parts, 5 parts of a whole sort of a deal. I think abstract or direct. I feel like the representation should be direct. I feel like if the representation is too abstract, it might be a hurdle for the players to like hone in on what the vibe is, right? Like, so for example, let's say we took like the 4 elements, right? Fire, ice, sorry, like fire, water, earth, air, right? For example, it's easier for like players to kind of like hone in on something like that. The mechanics you want to explore that you could tie the vibe to? Great question. Let's do that. Hold on. Let's yeah, so these are all kind of like tied to it. So let's go to the Havoc engine. So let's take a look at all this. Here we're talking about the goal already. Narrative authority. Leave named characters alone. Sharing the dice pool. There are the stats that might help, but I don't think there's like specific mechanics. So like here, let's look at some of these characters here, right? Let's take a look. So here, this is from Eat the Reich. Literally a named person. A bit of a background vibe of who they are. So in Eat the Reich, the characters have a name and a brief backstory outlining their life before the events of the game. You know what I suddenly had a brain blast about? I was thinking about like what is feared by mortals, right? Because they're being hunted. Why are they being hunted? I guess like, these are the questions we need to ask, right? Why are these beasts hunted? Why are they, either wanted for something or unwanted for something? What is the central piece of the conflict here? That, like, is it, I keep thinking about the thing that I've been thinking of is who here was in the stream. I think not a lot of y'all were in the stream where I was looking at the in the game Inang Uri by oh my goodness, The Marvelous Children of Inang Uri by Mamatos. And in that game, like, Inang Uri is this like giant, like, megafauna of a creature, right? And you can mine Inang Uri, right? So like, there's a question here of like, is this kaiju? Also, y'all can see this. Look at how beautiful this game is. Marvelous Children of Inang Uri. So, like, I think the question is like, let's ask some of these like key questions. And we don't have to all. So, all right. So here's another thing about game design, folks. We don't have to have all this answered, because here's the thing. Remember when I said that this game is like, this engine lives and dies by the strength of the flavor that you give to it, right? If we nailed the flavor, everything else will fall into place fairly quickly. So us taking the time to question, to ponder, to play around with all these concepts is going to really serve us well when we get to the like actual design and write-up portion. So, all right, so we got some key questions. Let's ask them. The thought I've been sticking to is emotions, but I'm not sure that's the vibe in question here. Ooh, that's an interesting direction to go to. These beasts of mortal feeling, right? That's a fun abstract direction to go in. But let's ask these quick questions. What is the source of the conflict? Do the hunters need resources? Are the monsters dangerous in some way? Or are they just in the way? That's key question number 1. Key question number 2. What do these monsters... What do these monsters represent? What makes them wanted or unwanted? Because here's how this is going to help us later, right? This is going to help us with objectives and conflict, as well as like, you know, pulling out like some of these like key questions about like what are the tasks, what is the mission, what's the conclusion, right? This question here is going to help us with character creation. It's going to help us think about what abilities, what flavor, what kind of stats we want to lean into here. And the thought of what I'm going with is, what if the hunters are harvesting these monsters for what they represent? I like that direction. I think I'm also leaning in the direction that there is something about these monsters that is wanted. Uh that is to be taken. You know what I mean? So the question is, what is that representation? What is the thing that these monsters are to be harvested for? So those are 2 key questions. What else? What other questions we need to ask? I think the urgency. What is the in-world urgency to act now? What is the source of the time limit? I think these are some key questions we need to ask ourselves. For sure. How are y'all thinking? How are y'all feeling so far? Are there directions about these monsters that you like so far? Are there aspects that you're like, I'm not sure? Ooh, how do the monsters act about being hunted? Yeah, how is their response? Responded to being. Great question to ask, Gale. Very, very good question to ask. Very, very good question. But yeah, so for example, the 4 symbols not only represent like cardinal directions, they also represent the elements of each direction. See? So like here, east, spring, dawn, color, element. Oh, that's pretty metal, Azra. That's pretty metal. I was also thinking in a similar direction of like not harvested, but what's being purged. You know what I mean? From guilt or greed, Jovi, please expand on the first part. What are your thoughts about hunting beasts for guilt from a place of guilt? I would love to hear it. I think we're cooking here. But I really like the idea of like this something like being able to like you're hunting these beasts to purge something from like mortal minds, mortal hearts. That's something very interesting. The resource extractivism of it all. Yeah, yeah. This is interesting. Posture check. Thank you, Puck, for the posture check. I appreciate it. Everyone, I highly recommend that you all do the same. Posture check about it. How to get rid of or to harvest something is so interesting, right? Right? So I think there's some very interesting directions that we can go with here. Let's look up. Let's look up negative emotions. Just in general, right? Like oh, there's a baby boy, right? You always lie down behind me, and then you get jump scared because you're like, oh, why are you moving? Buddy, I'm trying to readjust here. Baby boy. Guilty for the fact that it is an unnecessary act. Whether it's because the beast comes for them for a good reason, or the beast is hunted for frivolous reasons. I think the direction that we're going in that's making me that's finding some delicious purchase in my mind is this idea of these are legendary creatures within the sort of like self-contained mythos of this game's world, right? And they all represent something that was once like praisable, worshipable, right? And then now, with conflict, with greed, it is seen like, y'all, y'all are the ones we can go after now to purge this from mortal minds. There's something there. I haven't. It's not a fully coherent thought, but I feel like there's something there. There's something like beautifully tragic to once have been loved to being hunted, right? I think there's something very tragic there. There's something here. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Astra. I think that is the vibe. Turning on the old gods. Because I keep going back to Mononoke, right? Like in Mononoke, spoilers for this animated movie, folks. For the plot of this movie. In Princess Mononoke, right? The humans. It's interesting and complicated because we have the faction of essentially refugees who have made their own place, and they were hunting because they needed resources to sustain themselves, right? It was born out of necessity that spiraled out of control. That was one instance. The other instance was, of course, the emperor who hired uh what was I saying? Uh the emperor hired this sort of like monk guy and his sort of like warrior monk army or faction or whatever. And they hunt down the god. And then they realized that, for selfish reasons, for reasons that weren't even confirmed to be something that they could do, right? If y'all haven't seen Mononoke, y'all should, by the way. But yeah, like there's something there maybe. I don't think it fits the game jam as much as legendary creatures, as you were saying, but I almost love the idea that these creatures are common, but overexploitation in any direction is hurting them in their entirety. I also really like that. The reason I'm a little that's the line I'm trying to toe, because in the engine, right? Go back to let's go back to the characters, right? The characters should have a unifying identity. A unifying identity should be an adjective and a noun. Something like vampire commandos, possessed wizards, underdog firebrands, good-hearted criminals, or fun-loving goats. Maybe we should tap into that. They are all on the same side. So they need to be all on the same side. They are distinct from one another and have clear specializations. And are specifically named people with traits either stated or implied. Hmm. Hmm. There's something here. There's something here. I'm cooking. I'm cooking. My brain is a rice cooker. The rice is the ideas. They're being cooked. They're being steamed. We'll have a lovely meal. We'll have a lovely meal soon. Woo! Rice! Oh, Jovi. Oh, Jovi, that's tragic. Oh, Azra, I'm gonna raise you one better. Not abandoned beast. I'm gonna raise you one better. Gonna raise you one better. So we're gonna have, so this is unifying identity is forsaken. Forsaken beasts. They have been forsaken. Forsaken beasts. Also, Gail, listen, you're so valid. Rice is so tasty. It's just, I was just like, yes, my brain is a rice cooker. My ideas are rice. And you're like, ooh, rice. It's so cute. And, and to tap into, what Jovi is saying here. Tap into what Jovi is saying here, right? This sort of like, the distinctions. All of the distinctions should be the last of blank. I've been munching on rice, so it's there in the ideas. Yeah. Like for example, we can have one, even if all of them are not the last of, we could have like the last of, we could have like the broken blank, like the broken blank. We can have not the last of the cave skippers. I did my time. The last of the broken this, the abandoned blank. And another thing I've been thinking of is, so there's this book. There's this book called The Word for World is Forest. So the word for world is forest is a book by incredible writer Ursula K. Le Guin. She wrote the Earthsea fantasy series. She is a well-decorated science fiction and fantasy author. And she wrote The Word for World is Forest. This book is a novella specifically. It's super short. It's only 189 pages. It's super short, right? This book, this novella, was written during the advent, like the onset of the Vietnam War. And it tells a science fiction story about colonialism through the perspective of the colonizer in a bad way. Like, she is so, like, she literally had an introduction for this book being like, I'm talking about the Vietnam War, why it's terrible, why colonialism is terrible. And like, I'm writing this book so that readers can interrogate their colonialistic ideas and witness through the pages of this book the impact and violence of colonialism. And having it be in the perspective of this guy is like, the only thing I will say about this book is that, you know, especially for folks of color, especially for folks who face marginalization, right? This book's a hard read. I read this novella on a flight to my first ever Big Bad Con. My first ever Big Bad Con, and it was like I had to pause multiple times because I was just like, oh my god, this is colonial, like I'm reading colonial violence, right? It's not gratuitous or anything like that, but it's hard. It's a hard read. Also, I just realized, hi, Explorat. Thank you so much for following. But I just looked at my Twitch activity feed. I'm so sorry. I was so deep in the game design of it all. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for following the den. We appreciate you. But yeah, so it's a hard read. But a key thing, the point I was trying to make about this book. So I recommend it, but it's also a hard read. So I like cautiously recommend it to folks because it is a hard read. She executed very well what she was trying to do in, showcasing the widespread violence of colonialism, right? But it's a hard read. It's a very, very hard read. And one of the key things about the Word of for World is Forest is the colonized peoples, those who are victims of the imperialism of mankind in the science fiction world, are these forest dwelling creatures who do not have a concept for violence. It is literally not in their language. It is not a concept. It is not in their language. It is not an act that they have ever had to deal with, right? They have a completely different conflict resolution thing. Like it's not even like, oh, violence is taboo. They don't have the word for it. It doesn't exist in their language, right? And one of the key things of the storyline is that like there is a rebellion that starts happening in the novel, and we learn about the first of these forest people who turn to violence, and they've been changed irrevocably. And there's like a very interesting exploration about like the turning to violence and the like I would say fantastic grappling, right? Because I think Ursula very aptly notes the necessity for violence, because what else were they supposed to do? Like it was reiterated multiple times in this novella, like there was no other way for liberation to happen unless they rose up and fought back, right? But the tragedy is that these people are forever changed by the violence of colonialism. And this was more directly exemplified by the fact that these people who did not have a word for violence have now had to turn to it, and now have to give that body and name, forever changing them, similar to how colonialism forever changes, right? The people forever changes generation after generation. The trauma it inflicts on the colonized. And it's so clearly well like it was very well reflected book. She really, I mean, we're still having these conversations now, right? Like all of us in our communities, in our spaces, we're still having these conversations now about, the impact of colonialism, talking about, acts of violence and the retaliatory violence of the oppressed, right? Like these are conversations we're having right now in 2026. Ursula Le Guin is writing about this in 1972, right? She's writing about this in 1972. And she in her novel of Word for World is Forest is talking about this, and it's a deeply it's an amazing book. It is a hard read. I cautiously encourage folks to read this book. It is very, very good. Ursula Le Guin, as always, a trailblazer ahead of her time, right? And with such incredible insights to everything, right? I have an extra copy of this of this novella because my brother's girlfriend thought I didn't have this novella and got it for me for Christmas one year. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry I have a copy of this book. But excellent taste. Anyway, the reason I was starting to talk about Word for World is Forest is we could have a distinction that is like the changed, right? The changed blank. The last of the brook and the band of the change, something like that, right? Good stuff, good stuff. Sorry for going on a Le Guin tangent. Can you tell I love her? Can you tell that she's like my favorite author of all time? I think that's correct. I think she is my favorite author of all time. I love the Word for World is Forest. I love the Earthsea series. I love The Left Hand of Darkness. I fear you've cooked. Gale nods very solemnly. I fear you have cooked. I fear you have. I'm scared of what you will do with this game. Thank you. Another book that I would recommend from Ursula Le Guin is The Left Hand of Darkness, which is a book she wrote in 1969. I need you all to remember that this book was written in 1969, where the where she has non-binary characters who do not adhere to strict heterosexuality, with a confluence and scale and spectrum of like romantic and sexual attraction. In 1969, Ursula Le Guin wrote about gender and pronouns and gender fluidity in 1969 because she is cool. She is cool. But yeah, this book was banned at one point, by the way. She's incredible. I think Ursula Le Guin gets bonus points for being ahead of the game and being bold in writing about it and not being like, oh, but what will people think? She's like, I'm writing it. And literally, if you read any of her like author introductions, she's literally like, I'm writing this, and if anybody wants to fucking say something about it, they can come tell me to my face. And I will not give a shit. That's essentially what she's saying. She is so funny in her like little author introductions. She is so funny. She's so measured and she's so reflective, but she's also just like, if people who support the war in Vietnam really want to have a fucking problem with me, like, listen, I'm not about to go into someone else's home. Get my ass beat, right? And like say that this is for a great cause, right? No, that is a you people problem. I am vehemently against it, and anyone who wants to try and tell me to not be, well, y'all are wrong. Y'all are wrong. Fix your hearts and die, right? Like, she does not play. Ursula Le Guin does not play at all. She also very early on, when Harry Potter, apologies folks, I'm going to speak very briefly about Harry Potter and the Woman Who Shall Not Be Named. But she very early on critiqued Harry Potter before everyone else sort of like was able to kind of like see the insidiousness. When Harry Potter was first published, we're talking about the first book, she was like, listen, I see why people are attracted to the charm. No, in fact, y'all, hold on. We'll read it on Tumblr. But yes, this is the quote. This is the quote, the famous quote from Ursula Le Guin. Let me read it to you. I read it to find out what the fuss was about, and remained somewhat puzzled. It seemed a lively kid's fantasy, crossed with a school novel. Good fare for its age group, but stylistically ordinary, imaginatively derivative, and ethically rather mean-spirited. Ursula Le Guin, when Harry Potter was first published. That was what Ursula Le Guin said. She was ahead of her time. She was a trailblazer ahead of her time. I'm sad that, it's taken more the past, 10 years or so for her, after her death, for people to, really love her and love her incredible impact. She's amazing. Anyway, gushing about a hydrate. Thank you, Gail. Oh my god, thank you for redeeming that. I had a whole bottle I took distinctly to drink that I did not touch. Thank you, Gail. Everyone, join me in hydrating, please. Dice check. Dice check. Well, since y'all asked for a dice check, I don't have my camera on. We don't have a camera on, but what we will do for a dice check is talk about our incredible sponsor, Die Hard Dice, who has done an official collaboration with the Chaos Protocol, and now has a full set of Chaos Dice featuring the entirety of Strike Team Nova. This is the Sayer Dice. They are a blue die with sharp edges, black inking, as well as a bit of a black swirl on the inside of the dice itself. It's made out of resin. It has the Archimedean D4, which is a Die Hard Dice special. Please ignore the fact that I have 3 things in my cart. I have things to buy. I love Die Hard Dice. It has always been a dream of mine to have a dice from my own character dice made official ones. And Die Hard Dice, as some of you know, was the first ever company I purchased TTRPG products from. My first ever dice tray came from Die Hard Dice. My first ever dice came from Die Hard Dice. And it's so amazing to come full circle like this. So please, folks, go and grab yourselves a copy of Die Hard Dice. I forgot to make a command for this. The other day I was like, oh, I feel like I need to remember to make a command for something. I don't remember what it is though. This is what it is. Please consider grabbing yourself a set or any or all or some of the Transplanar Die Hard Dice. Oh, wow. Only 14 left in stock for Zynon. Zynon getting popular. I'm not surprised. The Zynon one is very pretty. This is very pretty. Hello, Gray. Welcome on in. We were just doing... This is my dice check. I hope that's fine. I don't have my camera on today. But please grab yourself a copy. Grab yourself some stuff. All right. Now that we're done with that. All right. We made some really good progress here, y'all. We made some really good progress. So we decided what concept we're doing, which is monsters. We got some really good answers. We got and I think from here we have good specialization and interesting traits, because I feel like not only will we have something based on like the actual like monster that they are going to be, like for example, if we do go with like the last dog, we will have some dog traits, right? But what other abilities they will have, or traits they'll have for being the last one, right? Oh, I have a sad ability name already. Oh, I have a sad ability name already. Like the Lonely Howl. I need help. I I'm gonna make a note of that in case I forget. Lonely Howl. Just like the cave skipper. I know. I know. All right, folks. Pronoun drop. Jovi has dropped the pronoun drop. Everyone, please, if you are so comfortable, please drop your pronouns in chat. I will begin the trade by saying I use he, him, and his pronouns. Go ahead and drop that in the chat so folks know what your pronouns are. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's what that redeem is. Also, thank you, Grace Ward, for being on a 3-stream streak. Excellent. Hi, Blue Starbean. Lovely to see you. Very nice, very nice. We got any all. We have they, them, they, any, she, her, she, fey, re, and she. I'm French, so I use the neutral pronoun il. Am I saying that right? I'm not. I do not speak French. Is it il? Which is the equivalent of they. Excellent. Noted. Thank you very much, Hexplorat. Amazing, amazing. Perfectly right. Wonderful. Wonderful, y'all. Thank you for doing your pronoun drop. Really appreciate it. Very good, everybody. I'm sorry to torment you, Grace. This is gonna be a good game. We're gonna make a diabolical game, and it's gonna be great. All right, let's look back. We got a bit more time. I got a bit more time. Another 8 minutes. So we've got like a pretty strong thing here. So maybe we should talk about the goal. Right? So let's start talking about the goal. Oh, Ray, gotcha. I've heard the other pronunciation for it. Thank you so much, Azra. Val makes his nicest celebratory every pronoun drop. It's true. Gotta celebrate everyone's pronouns. The way I just Starstruck froze in the middle of a time Duolingo lesson being recognized and shouted out. Listen, I gotta hey, like everyone is taking the time to share their pronouns, right? And to like spend time in my chat. I will if I'm able to. There are moments where I sometimes miss folks, but I always do my best to greet everybody in chat, to recognize all your pronouns, and keep an eye on all of y'all. Super important. Super important. I'll taking the time to hang out with me. I appreciate it. All right, we gotta let's see if we can think about the goal here, right? I think this is gonna be, if we can at least get the cornerstones of the goal, just some of the little pillars, I think we'll be well on our way to like designing this game, and then we can just like hammer out the details. So it needs to have a clear endpoint. So provide something brisk, like extract a double agent to friendly territory, win the battle of the bands, recruit a congregation big enough to take on the mob, and fight your way out of hell. Okay. Must be completed quickly before it's too late. We need to have a too late condition. Takes place in a defined location and involves an adversarial element. Maybe, and y'all can tell me this. Y'all can tell me which feels more inspiring or more interesting. I'm thinking it either has to be something like they have to defend and fend off a particular like a central location for these mystical creatures, or there is like an imminent attack on like one of like, you know, the equivalent of like a really big creature or like a really really important creature, and everyone's just had enough and they're going to defend that creature. What do you think is more, what do we feel is more inspiring? Do we think it's like, or so those are the first two options, which are more, I think, like defensive. The third one is like take down said hunter base before they're able to do X. What do we feel? I can't help but think of the caw fast bubble noises at this. My god, that's so funny. It is something. No, I agree. I agree with the framing, right? Like that's the vibe, right? The vibe is in the flavor of the game we're making. I think it's very much like this world is in its death throes. We have to stop the hunters and we have to avenge our lost brethren, right? That's the vibe, right? My question is, do we want this to be a defensive feel or offensive retaliation feel? I got the feeling the players are on the offensive. Yeah, you see, yeah, that's the thing that I'm feeling, right? Like with defensive, I'm able to make the goal more clear, right? For example, but with the offensive, it feels more conducive for players. So that's kind of where I'm stuck with. ¿Por qué no los dos, Val? ¿Por qué no los dos? Why not? Why not have both? All right, hear me out. Hear me out. Okay. So we will have the goal be that these monsters must rescue X monster by retaliating. So instead of defending the monster, we are rescuing. They like it's I would frame it as like enough is enough. They've taken everything from you. It is time to act. I think that's the vibe. I think that's the vibe. I think that's the vibe. ¿Por qué no los dos? Sometimes when you're choosing between two things, find a way to smush them together. Yes, that is my official game design recommendation. Just smush them together. Yeah, just smush them. So it's like save the beast by taking fight to them. My first thought was also a defensive goal, like protecting a beast as close to becoming endangered. Yeah, we can do that too, like through retaliatory action. So like we're able to hit both the things that the both of y'all were thinking about, right? I'm thinking about, and I'm only thinking like this has just hit me. I'm thinking about how communities rise up for each other in the wake of tragedy and violence, right? In the wake of tragedy and violence. And they show up and they push back. I think that's the vibe and that's the energy. I think we nailed it. I think we nailed it, y'all. Everyone, like, clap for yourselves. Obviously, we still have a bunch of outstanding question. Grief-stricken bite. Ooh, I'm gonna add that. That's really good. Everyone, clap for yourselves. This was great. This has been very successful. Remember when we started this, we were like, we didn't know where we were going. Remember at the beginning of the stream, we were like, we didn't know what where we were going, what we were doing. And look at us now. Look at this. We went from concept, we answered the exercise, we came up with some key questions of stuff we need to figure out. We found a unifying identity, some interesting names we can go with, and a structure for a goal. And this is the thing that I want to, like, with these sessions in the tabletop, then I want to encourage folks to realize that, like, hey, game design can be done by anyone. Sometimes you'll start at a place being like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but, you know, one, through talking to other people, sharing your ideas, and having fun together, and, like, you know, playing in the space instead of pressuring yourself, you can make some cool stuff. So there's no need to, like, pressure yourself so terribly about it. With that, folks, thank you all so much. And also on the topic of community and talking to each other about stuff, for those of y'all who are new to the space, we have an official Discord. This Discord is not going to be filling up your notifications. We're not going to be spam pinging you. But it is a wonderful... I am very proud of this Discord. I think we built a really lovely community there. We've got co-working chats, gaming chats. We've got lots of text channels. Lots of ways to support each other and like discuss all things tabletop and other things as well. I really love this little community, this little den that we've made. So please consider joining us. If you're thinking about, you know, game design, we do have like a design chat where folks throw their ideas there all the time and people talk about it. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think with that, folks, thank you very much. I do have to pop off and take a little break, rest up, go over some of my singing lesson stuff. And yeah, all that being said, thank you all so much. We're making this game. Next time, thank you all for your contributions. Right? It is thanks to your soundboarding that we were able to get through to all of this. Every time y'all are like, Val, your brain, I'm like, no, y'all brains too. Your brains are all amazing. Your ideas are great. They're very, very fruitful. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, folks. With that, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Do not touch that dial. We will go and raid somebody amazing. Let's go see who's around. Thank you for wishing me luck, Grays. I will enjoy my singing lesson. I'm very excited for it. Alright, who's around? Who's around? Yeah, let's go raid Azuki. We haven't raided Azuki in a hot second. Azuki's doing some live drawing right now. Let's go and support them. Let's start that raid. Please go over and send a Spirit Bear love. I appreciate you all. Next time, so tomorrow we'll be back with some Marvel Rivals gaming. And on Saturday, of course, we have the midpoint episode for the Chaos Protocol. And on Sunday, we're back with more Fallout shenanigans over on the Vault Companions for our finale episode. So, I will see you all there. Thank you all so much. Gonna raid Azuki now. Have a fantastic rest of your time soon, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.